All right, so if you're in and around the Nikon booth, come up and grab a seat. We've got our next presenter coming up. I met this young man, if he comes up to the stage with me right now, because when he comes up, the crowds will come. I met Malike, how many years ago? Decade or so ago?
Almost a decade,
We met at a workshop where Malike won the grand award for that particular workshop. And the last vision of that workshop I have is Malike carrying out boxes and boxes of Nikon equipment.
For
a
sure.
D850 camera, several lenses, speed light.
Yep.
And we knew each other at that point, and we sort of became mentor-mentee, right?
For
Just
sure.
a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe I'm a little influenced
No,
in
for
the world.
sure.
But Malike is an incredible fashion photographer, very edgy fashion photographer, and his work is just stunning. I have bought one of your prints on auction.
Yep.
He is a Nikon ambassador. He hails from New York, New York.
Yes, I
and
do.
he's with us here today. So we're going to let him talk to you a little bit about the importance and the benefits of being versatile as a shooter.
Yeah.
I know he's shot a lot of celebrities, some photojournalism, but mainly some just incredible fashion. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Malike Sidibe.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I could have went with the hand.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Mike, for an amazing introduction. He always goes above and beyond when it comes to my introductions, and I'm always grateful. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself and how I got into photography. My name is Malike Sidibe. I'm originally from West Africa. I was born in Ivory Coast, and I grew up in Guinea. Is anyone familiar with those two countries? Yeah? Yeah, sounds good. But yeah, I was born in Ivory Coast. I grew up in Guinea. My family decided to migrate to Guinea when the war started in Ivory Coast. So I lived in Guinea up until 2010. We got our documents and moved to America. And I didn't really get into photography until 2 years afterwards. When I first moved to the States, I was really, really into fashion. I love fashion, and I wanted to learn how to make clothes. I was just amazed by it. So I started taking classes at FIT. I was still in high school, but I signed up to take weekend classes, and I would go there every weekend learning about photography and everything. And then I realized I don't really like making clothes as much as I like to photograph them. So that's kind of how I transitioned from wanting to be a fashion designer to a photographer. And then I found out about this amazing photo program in New York City called NYC SALT, where I joined the program, and they taught me how to kind of get my voice out there as a photographer. But today, with my presentation, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the importance of being versatile in photography. A lot of time you meet a lot of creative photographers. They're super talented. They do amazing work, but they just kind of like limit themselves to one style of photography. And to me, I just feel like that's a bit limiting. As a photographer, we have the potential to do so much amazing work and so many different kind of work, from landscape to documentary to fashion. And I've been really lucky to being able to like learn different style of photography. And today, I bring that with me to any job that I get, and it's been really, really good for me. Like I said, knowing multiple photography styles offer various advantages as photographers. And some of the styles that I would recommend for people to learn to kind of, oops, sorry, I just kind of skipped a little bit of my presentation. These are some of the reasons why it's important to learn different style of photography. It helps you become adaptable, it gives you technical skills, and it helps you be more versatile, and you also grow as a professional photographer. You never really know what's the next job is coming, and being a fashion photographer, sometimes I have like my dance seasons, which is like on the winter, especially during the holidays, there's not really work happening, but I have actor friends and people who are into acting that's like, hey, I need a headshot, and being able to do that helps me make my bills and, you know, live as a photographer. As we all know, it's pretty hard. Some of the styles that I would recommend for any photographers to learn is to learn how to do portraiture. Portraiture, to me, I feel like is it's a very important step when it comes to photography. Knowing how to capture your subject and tell their story in their own unique way, I think is very important. Another one that I think is really important is fashion. When it comes to fashion photography, you learn a lot about styling and you learn a lot about lighting. And you know, there's ways to tell stories in many different ways depending on how you light your subjects. And learning that in fashion photography, I feel like could take you a really far. And another thing that I really enjoy doing, which at the time I had no idea it was me picking the style of photography, was landscape. When I first bought my first camera, the first thing I would do is go outside. I mean, living in New York City, there's amazing areas that you could walk around and amazing buildings that you could go and photograph. And I naturally got into landscape photography, and I didn't know how important it was at the time until later on I came to find out. And one thing I love doing, and I feel like this is not only fulfilling to me as a photographer, but it's really important as well, knowing how to do documentary work. And there's a lot of things going on in the world, and us photographers, we play a lot of important roles. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of story a bit later on once I start diving into this. Storytelling and documentary, one of the things that you learn that is really important is storytelling. Being able to tell a story and the photograph goes a long way. As I said, when I started photography, it was mainly because I was into fashion. I love the beauty and the styling and colors and everything. But in 2020, everything stopped. We were in lockdown, there was no work, there was nothing really going on, except there was a big protest happening outside. No matter where you're at in the world, there was some sort of protest happening. So as a photographer, I started asking myself questions. I had my opinions about what was going on, and I wanted to find ways to take part in it and, have my voice heard. So I just decided, I picked up my camera. I had never done documentary before. I went out there in the street and I started documenting what I was seeing. And to my surprise, I created amazing images. I told you guys a little bit about the photo program I joined when I was in high school. Being part of that program, one of the things that they give you as a student, every Thursday they give you assignments to go out there and photograph different things. Some days you'll walk in, they'll be like, okay, today we're gonna go out and we're gonna find interesting shadows around the city. And all the students come back with really interesting shadows, their own unique way of photographing them. And other days we'll do like fashion, or we'll do street style photography where we'll stop random people. But it taught me how to be able to tell a story no matter what it is that I'm photographing. So grabbing my camera on this day, going out there, I documented what was happening. My images blew up. It became really popular on social media. It caught the attention of this photo editor from Time magazine, whom called me the same day. It was like, hey, I saw all these images that you posted on Instagram. What was it for? Was it for a client? And I was like, no, I just went out there with my camera. I wanted to protest, and I just decided to take some photos. He was like, can we run this as a story tomorrow? So I sat on the phone with him for literally 6 hours, from 12 a.m. at night to 6 a.m., just telling him about the day, going through the photos, and showing him things that I photographed. And this is one of the images from that assignment. And this ended up being the cover of the New York Times Magazine in June 2020. And another thing that you learn as a documentary photographer, you learn how to be proficient in terms of your camera. Because being a documentary photographer, you're kind of on the go. You're photographing anything that shows up. It might be sunny and the clouds might come on, it's dark. And you got to learn how to use your camera, how to change those settings. It almost got to become like muscle memory. And I feel like that's something that I learned while doing documentary. Either I'm out protesting and there's cops chasing me with a pepper spray, and I'm still trying to capture that as it's happening and things like that. Being able to learn my camera, obviously I have a Nikon camera, and I think personally it's the best camera company out there. So like being able to use that and just getting my settings right and for each shot was very important to me for this assignment. And this is another image that I created during that time. Another thing that you learn from doing documentary photography is observation and anticipation. A lot of people think that documentary photography is just going there and photographing whatever is there. Sometimes you need patience. Sometimes you almost kind of have to predict the future and be like, oh, somebody's going this way, this is happening, what's going to happen? In this case, it was this photograph of this police car blowing up in Brooklyn. This was the first that they had the George Floyd protest in Brooklyn. And I went out there and I saw a lot of people try to light the car on fire. It was really hard for them. They didn't really quite get it fully on fire, even though it is. And then I saw this one kid out of nowhere had like a, I didn't know what he was holding in his hand, but I just saw him light something and just running. And I just thought, okay, he's either gonna do something crazy or something is gonna happen. So I try to position myself somewhere that I'm safe enough to capture a nice frame and also also capturing the moment. And obviously I used my Nikon. At the time, I think I had the Nikon Z6 II, and honestly, it was amazing because it was very small and very light, and I was able to carry it with me anywhere. And I just positioned myself, and I saw he was holding up a firework, and he threw that in the car, and I started shooting, and it just captured the explosiveness coming out of that firework, which was amazing. And without being able to kind of predict what he was going to do and positioning myself to be able to capture that the right way, I would have missed this chance to photograph this image because it happened really fast. And being used to being in this situation, it almost became like a muscle memory where I didn't really necessarily have to think about it too much. And this is another image from that. This image was one of the top 3 images of 2020 from Time Magazine. This was right across the street from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, where the Knicks plays, or if you're a fan of basketball, I don't really know much about basketball. But this image to me was amazing because this kid at the time, I think he was probably like 16 years old, and the cops were trying to get protesters off the street, and he said something back to the cop. I couldn't quite hear it, and all I saw was almost 8 police officers running after this 16-year-old, and they're all trying to wrestle this kid down to the floor. So I'm like, I could have even probably taken that kid down myself. You didn't really need 10 officers, but being able to capture that image at that moment right there as it was happening was very, very important, and being able to place myself somewhere where I could anticipate that scene and that shot was very, really important. And I feel like as a photographer, these are some of the things and these are some of the skills that you should nurture and learn how to master. And one of the things that makes this image really interesting to me is because he's wearing a shirt that says "Please stop the violence," and he's caught in the middle of a violent situation, which was very interesting to me. Another style of photography I think that is really important to learn is fashion. To me, learning fashion photography will help you a lot in so many areas. Either you're doing a quick portrait of your little sister or your family or your little brother, or you're just doing a random shot of a stranger on the street. Being able to master fashion photography, learn to work your lighting settings. I shoot a lot in studio, and I play a lot around with movement and try to create some sort of movement in my images. Being able to use strobe lights and kind of like balance those lighting settings and get the perfect shot, I think is really important. And now I could walk in any room, no matter what the light is, as long as I have my equipment with me, I'm confident that I could make something happen because I was able to take my time to learn more about lighting and know how to light my subjects to tell my stories. And these are some of my fashion work that I've done through all the lighting skills that I've learned over the years. Also, if you guys have any questions while I talk, please feel free to raise your hands. I know I could kind of talk a lot sometimes. And fashion photography, I think, is really important because not only it teaches you lighting, but it also teaches you styling and trends out there. I feel like when you're in fashion, no matter what it is in fashion that you do, you can't help yourself, but you know the latest trending stuff that are out there. And I feel like being able to kind of like keep an ear out for fashion-related stuff will really help you know, like when you're shooting, sometimes your models don't know what they want to wear, or like they don't know what colors will go with what colors, and being able to know these things from experience could kind of help you in any given shoot that you do. And this is another image. This one actually was for the Nikon Z6 campaign. They reached out to me when the Z6 came out. They're like, hey, this camera is really great. Here are some of the amazing settings. We want you to go out there and create some images. And that's how I came about making this. And portraiture now, talking about portraiture, I think obviously portraiture is really important. I feel like portraiture and fashion is a bit different depending on your subject, but portraiture, it really helps you see your subject. Like for this case, I had to photograph these 2 actors, and they were doing a play for Broadway, and the magazine was like, hey, we want to capture their strong personality and kind of showcase ways that how they connect together as co-workers, as actors. And I had to come up with these ideas. How can I because he was playing this guy in the show. So I had to kind of make some sort of image that relates both of them together. And this is kind of what I came about. And knowing how to kind of communicate my ideas to them and posing them the right way and directing my lights the way I wanted really made this image different from a lot of my work. And this is some of my portrait works as well that I've done that I think is really nice. And a lot of things when it comes to portraiture, it also helps you understand light a lot more, because harsh light is different from soft lighting, and how you place one light or 2 lights could kind of tells you so many different stories about who you're photographing and how you want to tell that story. And this was an image that I did for the Washington Post for this actor right here. He was really nice to work with. And now going into landscape, as I said a little bit, when I first started photography, I naturally gravitated to landscape because it was like the easiest thing to do. You could just go out by yourself. You don't got to talk to anyone. You could be isolated. But I got to learn how to document the city in the way that I see it. And this was a shot of the Empire State Building. I remember when I got the assignment to go photograph this building, I was like, well, there's thousands of images of the Empire State Building being pushed out there every day. How can I make mine different? So I had to start kind of thinking outside of the box and find creative ways to do that. And once I took this image, I knew exactly, oh, this is the image for me. And it's one of my favorite ones. And this is another image that I took. This was actually one of my first images that I took when I started photography that I looked at and I was like, wow, like maybe I'm good at what I do. This was when I was still a senior in high school. And some of the things that landscape photography helps you with is environmental awareness, as well as location scouting and planning. A lot of time people think that, oh, when you're doing landscape photos, you just show up and you photograph what's there. But to make sure that your photos are nice, you got to think about the lighting. Where's the light at the time that you're photographing it? Or if I'm going to post my subject here, where I'm going to place them. And all these little details comes in play. And it comes in play when it comes to documentary, when it comes to fashion, even weddings, even sometimes headshots. And yeah, so now I want to talk to you guys a little bit about how all these skills kind of come in play. You know, when I got into photography, I just kind of did everything. I genuinely just love photography. If you want me to hang on an airplane, on a helicopter to photograph an airplane, I would be like, sure, when do you want to do it? You want me to photograph a submarine? I would be happy to figure out how to do it. So I'm a student when it comes to photography. I just love every aspect of it. And I took my time to be able to learn these things because I want to be able to photograph things every day. Either I'm here, I'm photographing random people in the streets, or I'm getting an assignment to go to LA to photograph a celebrity. Being able to have all of these skills help me be confident when I'm on set. As we all know, sometimes you go on set, it's like you're really nervous, but I'm able to be confident and I'm able to tell people what to do because I know exactly what I want and how I'm going to get it. And being able to master all these skills is what makes me confident. 2 years ago, I got this amazing assignment to photograph Usher. You know, I thought it was any other assignment. They gave me a call. They're like, hey, we have this potential assignment coming up, and it's to photograph Usher in LA. I was like, sure, I'm down. What do you guys want me to do? They're like, well, it's going to be 10 days long. We need you to follow Usher around and document his life getting ready for his Vegas residency. So they sent me in LA to meet up with Usher. I went into his house, got to meet him and everything. And at this point, I'm like, well, I usually like to do fashion and I like to do studio stuff, but they were like, hey, we just want you to photograph him. I was like, is there a specific style? They're like, no. I was like, do you want me to do some portrait? Like, yeah, if you can. Like, you know, they just gave me access to him. So I brought my camera. I first met up with him at his house, and then we went to like the rehearsing house, and he just started playing around. And me being able to know how to use my camera and all my technical skills and all my landscape skills and my lighting skills all came into play. This was a slow shutter speed image. As you see, the lights is a bit blurry, and he's like in mid-movement. Without seeing him move, you can already tell that he's moving. And I was able to do that because I know how to work my camera, and I know how to slow down my shutter speed just to the right amount to capture that, to showcase the movement and the images. And this was him rehearsing with his thing. And it was amazing because I would be there, some of the backup dancers would be like, hey, can you get a photo of me here? And I'll position them, and I'll get a great shot of it, and they'll love it. I was able to connect with them confidently because I'm like, I'm here, I don't know exactly what the client wants me to do, but I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna do it the best way possible. So I just kept shooting. I kept looking out for the way the dancers are positioning themselves, almost kind of anticipating my shot. Like this dancer was dancing and doing backflips all around, so I was like, okay, I wanna get Usher in the shot because he's my main subject, but I also wanna showcase what's happening around him. So I position myself in a place that you could kind of see him, I'll see what's going on around him. It's not the best shot, it's not the most beautiful shot, but he tells the story of what's happening and who the subject is. And this is all part of it. This one, I decided to just focus on like the backup dancers and showcase what the people he has around him and all of that. And this is him practicing with his band and everything. So I got to photograph a lot of images. I hung out with him literally every day from breakfast to 3 a.m. and then we start again 3 hours later. And then this was us in the music studio. I had wrapped up my shoot with him at the rehearsal place. I was like, okay, cool. Packed up, I'm ready to go home to my hotel. I have some friends in LA. I called them. I was like, hey guys, let's meet up for dinner. As I was leaving, I get a call from his assistant. It's like, yeah, so we're going to the studio. And mind you, at this time, this is like midnight. So I'm like, oh yeah, I finished. I could still hang out with my friends and just kind of, and they're like, no, we're going to the studio. He wants you to come. And I was like, what? And the music studio is usually dark, and I have my Nikon Z6 with me. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I just grab a flash, and then I grab my camera. As you can see, this shot, I did it. I put my flash down right next to him, and I had like a remote for it. Just because I didn't want to show him, I just wanted to show his silhouette and the environment that he's in and what he's doing. And I just shot it with natural lighting, with that, the only light being that, and this is how it came out. And this other shot was just this one light, speed light on my flash. So being able to see these things where it's like, I don't need to have my Pro Photo strobe lights with me to kind of create a fashion shot of him or anything. And then I think this was like day 4. I think it was like his rest day. It was chilling there. He was really kind enough to invite me in his home to hang out with him and his family while they were having food. And I just thought, okay, I know this is an intimate moment, but can I get some portrait of you? This is the only calm moment that we've had. He was like, sure. So I had my assistant with me, and then we had this one light. I put a on location, what do you call it? The off-camera, what's the Pro Photo portable modifier? I forgot the name, but we had the Pro Photo modifier. I used that to just kind of light him and just working with what I have, using what's there and making that work the best way I can. And I think that's pretty much what I want to talk to you guys. Like, this is why it's really important to be able to learn a little bit of everything so that you could be able to do whatever you want in photography. Don't limit yourself to just being like, I'm a portrait photographer, I only photograph people, or I only photograph animals or nature. Like, no, you can photograph anything. We're photographers, we're storytellers. We have many stories around us. Either it's fashion, it's family, it's friends, it's location. There's ways to document everything in a really, really nice way. You're just gonna have to take the time to study it and practice. Like, I always tell my friends, they're like, how they never see me walk around with my camera and things like that, but they know I always have a bag. And my bag always have a camera, because you never know when you're gonna need it. Sometimes my friends are like, hey, I want a photo taken by you, but like, do we need to be in? So I'm like, no, I got my camera right there. Let's go to your closet, pick out some outfits, let's go out and shoot. Because like, I wanna be able to photograph anything. And on my downtimes, when there's not that many assignments coming in from my clients, I get to reach out to my active friends and be like, hey, do you need a quick headshot for your portfolio? Like, hey, do you need my friends who are DJs, like, hey, are you throwing an event today or something? I want to do event photography, just to be able to make some extra cash. And being able to master all these different skills help me be consistent and confident and versatile. And that's pretty much my presentation. There's a few more images to go through, but thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, please come find me.